Hello and welcome to Wrestling Questions. You answered. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, joined by Adam Cleary and Adam Nicholas from What Culture to answer all the wrestling questions. Can't say it today. You one answered. As always, we are live here on YouTube, as you can probably tell. If you want any questions answered, do stick them in the comments section right now. But if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from for daily wrestling podcasts. We review Raw, SmackDown, the Wednesday Night War between AEW and NXT pay-per-views. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on wrestle culture. As I said, though, joined by Cleary Nicholas. You know what's messed me up is not calling it WWE questions you want answered, but calling it wrestling questions you want answered, because we've got to first off talk about AEW.
Actually, mate, I'll stop you there. What messed it up were you saying questions, not anything else?
Let's deal with the headline story then before we get to SummerSlam on a bloody boat, which is a potential former WWE star heading to AEW. It is, of course, JTG, former member of Crime Time. A lot of people in the comment section have guessed that. He tweeted in response to someone making a sort of fan graphic of Cody versus JTG for the TNT Championship and said, "Oh yeah, aren't these sorts of things interesting?" with a nice emoji. Adam Nicholas, what do you reckon? JTG heading to AEW?
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one, this, because I'm kind of fascinated to see how it would work, because obviously he's very heavily connected, obviously, with Shad, and I'm sure at this point he might well be thinking he just wants to try and find something to reinvigorate himself, because obviously it's been a rough, I would imagine, and the fact that obviously there's a relationship there between the two already in terms of Cody, it might well be a situation where he could get a chance again. Both guys were extremely talented in WWE, and to see him get a chance to go across to AEW and perhaps go and try his hand there, that would be quite intriguing, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Warhorse this week. They've had Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, etc. Cleary, well, what do you reckon? And is there anyone else that you can think of that you'd like to see that aren't already on the AEW roster pop up to challenge Cody?
Yeah, it's a great question. If we're going to talk about JTG in this, I know we've already brought Shad up. Like, I would really like this to be something that's done on sort of his terms, and like we sort of focus on him as a performer, because, you know, it wasn't like the way everything's gone with the Global Bastard. Like, time has just stretched out into a really thin, doughy pizza. I'm having pizza for tea, by the way. It's going to be loads of analogies, but like, it feels like it was a million years ago, but it was only like a couple of months. I'm literally wearing my Shad Gaspard t-shirt. It's still very raw and stuff, even though it feels like, you know, so many things have happened since then. But under normal circumstances, you would imagine what JTG would have done is just got back on it, like got back into wrestling, gone on all these shows, dedicated these shows to him, had these nice moments with the crowd where they all kind of, you know, embraced him, and you could effective, you know, sharing the grief between himself and the understandable grief in the community. But he's not been able to do that. So I think to get him involved in AEW, I would love to talk about the match and talk about the angle and the storyline, purely about what he can bring to it, purely about him as a professional wrestler. But because it's still like very raw, like obviously Shad's gonna come into it. As far as other people go, Kairi Sane.
I really like that.
That's my shout. Kairi Sane, why not?
Incredibly left field, but I like that. I mean, obviously, Nicholas, people like Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona has been suggested. Brian Pillman Jr. ?
Brian Pillman Jr., I think, is a one I could see definitely happening, because obviously he was on AEW Dark, wasn't he? And it was a fantastic showing from him. And I really like Brian Pillman Jr. There's something about him, because he's kind of got that energy. And I guess if you're a wrestling fan of, like, obviously going back a bit, you've obviously seen his father. You're curious to see if that legacy could continue, and could he surpass that? I'm sure he'd be keen to, while also probably wanting to do his own thing, I would imagine. Don't just wants to be the first of his kind, I'm sure, not just chuck in with his father. But fantastic talent there, and if AEW Dark Show has anything to say about what he can possibly do in AEW, I would say yes, please. Yes, please.
We'll get to SummerSlam on a boat in a second. If you want to go to our comments, thank you so much for your questions, for your donations. Neo version 2.1 says Adam Cleary is the John Wick of wrestling analysts. You can patent that. You're welcome. Thank you for that, Neo. It's a good little show. What do you reckon, Cleary?
Why? Because I have the total demeanor of someone whose dog's just died. Like, what is? why am I the John Wick? To be fair, I've only seen John Wick 1 and 2, so maybe there's something in the third film that expands that.
Indeed.
Anyway, that's an interesting point, but I have serious questions about what that means.
No, people are already writing. I've got a good question.
Some thirsty people in the comments.
Yeah, Mr. Phoenix says Vince has a two-pronged tactic for dealing with Baszler. If he can't bury her, he'll injure her. It's called the Nia Jax Directive. And Matt Rains says, afternoon to the Addams family. I like that name for the three of us.
We've never thought of that, have we?
Hey.
Question for you.
Adam Cleary changed the name of the group chat to
if we do get MJF versus Mox at All Out, who should go over? Nicholas, why don't you take this one?
Oh, it's intriguing this because we've been kind of waiting. MJF is obviously he's gonna be the champion at some point, isn't he? He's that guy. He's the star that's been rising ever since AEW started. Too early for me personally. I like Mox where he is, even though I know technically a lot of people think his reign might not have perhaps reached the heights it should. Now that he's competing against someone like MJF, though, that's the kind of matches I personally want to see him in. Don't think I want to see him drop the belt just yet, but I would like to see a hell of a showing from MJF and as close to him losing it as possible.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not crowds are allowed back, because that's what start of September. It's a long shot, Cleary.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think taking the belt off Mox at this stage is quite a questionable direction to go in, because obviously a title reign not hit the heights we expected it to. But again, like how much of that is down to the circumstances? I think if you're AEW, you've got two big options. Either you can try and as soon as you start thinking you can get crowds back in, have a big cut off, go for a new champion, start again, new, it's exciting. Look, new champion, forget about all this. Or you can give a performer as good as Moxley, an opportunity to go, okay, well, this sucked, but why don't you prove it was because everything sucked and it wasn't because you're an underwhelming champion? And I personally lean towards the latter.
I've got clarification from Neo version 2.1, and you'll like this, Cleary. It's because you kill it every time.
Oh, very good.
Thank you. Checks in the post.
And it's raining compliments for you, Cleary. Mr. Phoenix says, as of today, Kairi Sane is part of the Gone Away community. You can have that for free. Also, really good on Cleary for his charity efforts. Inspirational. Yes, you are wearing the Shad Gaswad t-shirt, of course. And you're doing lots of running, if you want to tell people about that quickly.
Oh, I get to plug it. I was really miserable in lockdown, really miserable. And I think I'm not the only person. And I can't really speak for America too much, but I suspect it's kind of similar to the UK. The support structures we have in this country for everybody's mental health are rubbish. So we kind of have to rely on charities and volunteer work and stuff like that. So I'm trying to raise a bit of money for Mind, who are a UK-based mental health charity, who try and enact real change in both legislation and in people's lives, to try and make sure that nobody has to go through a mental health problem on their own. And so far, thanks to the overwhelming generosity of my friends, family, and complete internet strangers, I am almost at £2,000. I'm doing a lot more running over the next couple of weeks. So if you've got a spare $10, £5, anything, and you want it to go to a good cause, I'll drop the link in somewhere.
Yes, and me and the rest of the boys won't be running it with you, but we'll be sitting quayside having a drink whilst you run past. I think that's the agreement. Right. Yeah. Let's talk about SummerSlam on a boat.
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam, indeed. Cleary, what did you reckon when you first heard this news?
Do you know what it is? It was another stark reminder. Sometimes where you go into a room and you forget why you went in there and you're like, oh, but then it comes to you and you have that, you just feel everything crash back into your head at once. It was kind of like I saw the news and I was like, SummerSlam on a boat. Is this really where we are? And then I remembered why I was in the room, and it's because everything is crazy and insane and the horror show and Extreme Rules and Money in the Bank on top of the building. I was like, of course that's what they're going to do, because why else? What else can they possibly do? I'm massively in favor of it, because it seems the more WWE creates situations in which things can go terribly wrong, the more somehow they work for them. Everything that should have been bad this year has been good, and everything that should have been good has conversely been quite bad. So this should be an unmitigated disaster that involves an aerial midnight rescue of about 200 performers and crew in the middle of the ocean. And instead, it's probably going to be the show of the year.
Yeah, Nicholas, it's an incredibly unique idea. I've never heard anyone putting a wrestling show on a boat before. What do you reckon about all this? And you're a UFC fan like myself, and they did Fight Island. Could it be something similar to that?
It certainly could be. I just think Well, for starters, WWE's history with going elsewhere is at the moment isn't exactly great, especially not if they were thinking about going to Abu Dhabi in a similar fashion to what the UFC have done. But I'm the same with Cleary. I think the idea of this, I'm amazed it's taken them this long to get to a boat or potentially a beach or something like that, because they've done everything else. I mean, we've hit a swamp. We've had a swamp already, so that was another place, which is definitely a thing. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a boat. I think I'd like to see a boat only really because that'd be the two swarms of people on the internet who would go absolutely mad about WWE copying off Chris Jericho and his boat. Jericho probably on Dynamite and probably on Twitter would be absolutely non-stop hounding them for that. We'd probably at Vince McMahon in the wee hours of the morning, then delete the tweet and just at WWE instead. It'll be great fun, and I just think in this current situation, the more creative they can get, and whether that means going absolutely any and everywhere in the world in different ways and what have you, I'm up for it.
This sort of relates to a question we get asked a lot regarding WWE salvaging low ratings. When we talk about UFC, that got a huge amount of attention, buzz, and eyes on their product, when effectively it was just your standard UFC in a different building. I think some people maybe thought they were going to have an octagon on the beach, which was never going to happen. But could this help them in any way?
It probably could. I mean, anybody who thought that the professional athletes of the UFC were going to have fights outdoors in 100-degree temperature heat have not obviously done it. I mean, I haven't even done it, but I know for a fact that that's not going to happen. I tell you what, though, when you look at stuff like the shows that WWE have ever put on outside, and these like in the Coliseums and all sorts of things, they've always been received really well. And WWE, even if the pay-per-view isn't great, the setting is going to be like, will last forever. Like, yes, UFC didn't do anything outside, but how many promotional shots did we get with that ring outside, and how many people probably tuned in just because they were excited by that alone, right?
Yeah, I think the tease of a wrestling match on a boat, Cleary, I know obviously it's been done before, but with WWE behind it, might bring some eyes back to the product. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, look, right. They did a Sex and the City movie, right, which was kind of about as creatively praised as WWE is right now. Like familiar characters in it. Somehow there's a lot more money, there's a lot more showmanship, there's a lot more spectacle to it, but it's just nowhere near as good as when you used to watch it. It's just everybody's old and haggard. Nobody liked it. And then yet somehow it still made enough money that they got to do a sequel because enough people encouraged them. And all they could think to do was put it in a desert. Like, they all have a hat now. And like WWE on a boat is very much the Malibu Stacy, but she's got a new hat type thing. Unless they sink this shit, like genuinely, this could be a masterstroke because we've always said they need to have like a mid-season dip and a mid-season break. Given that everything's still up in the air and we don't know when stuff's going to get back to normal, if we're going to have like a 1 month, 6 week hiatus, now would be a good time to do it. And doing it by sinking the ship. And so you've got to wonder, did they survive? Did they swim up somewhere? We don't know what's going on. Like, if they do that, and then there's just no Raw or SmackDown for 6 weeks, and then it comes back, and they're all like, oh, we've been on a desert island. Here's some clips from the time there. That would be perfect. However, what I think will actually happen is, don't know, just something more like the Eric Ivar Street Profits garbage truck monster. Just that, but the Kraken.
Hi to Balls in our comment section. Regular
Hi, Balls.
contributor.
Hi, Balls.
Balls is just checking in from work whilst being in quite possibly the worst Zoom meeting ever. Well, welcome to the best Zoom meeting ever. And hello to Isaac.
Hang on. The what? Say it again. Do it properly.
Zoom.
If you're going to say this is the best Zoom meeting ever, then
Because it's the best Zoom meeting ever.
come on.
Oh,
sorry. I was concentrating on Isaac Merriweather. Thank you for your donation and for your question. Isaac says, what up, homies? Look, why did I read that bit out?
So what was that? Once more?
Sorry, go on.
My thing cut out.
He says,
do it for Dame Judy Quench.
he says,
Hang on,
what up, homies?
One second, Nicholas. I've just got to question my thirst here.
I love you guys a lot. Do you think WWE will have another rematch between Sasha and Asuka and have Bayley accidentally cost Sasha the belt? Yeah, lots of fallout from Raw this week. Your reaction, Adam Nicholas, and where you think they're going with this?
Oh, God. I sincerely hope they just don't. I think they need to leave it alone now. I know a lot of people are really upset about this, and that finish on Raw was quite something. I mean, talk about like, I don't know. We're gonna do this finish. It's gonna keep Asuka strong, but it's gonna make her look stupid as hell. Yeah, that was not good. So anything
she's gonna look strong, but a strong moron.
like she's a strong idiot. But yes, I think if they could kind of do something that would help Asuka, great. But I just feel like the more they're going to put these two together, the more she's going to suffer. I'm not against Sasha Banks being the champion, by the way, I should say. I like that aesthetic. I like the idea of them, Bayley and Sasha, both being the champs. This just was not the shot, my friends.
Yeah, it was a surprising conclusion. I'll say that. I avoided all the spoilers that I saw doing the rounds last night. And I think the general consensus clearly going into it was, okay, Asuka retains, or Asuka wins the title back, I should say, because it was obviously just up in the air. You have Bayley defend on Friday against Nikki Cross, and then you just simply build with 4 weeks, or 3 and a bit weeks, to Sasha and Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and the tag titles can sort of be dealt with separately.
No. See, you've missed what they've done here, right? After they finally started getting the Sasha and Bayley thing, right, to the point where, yes, we know this has always got to build eventually to the Sasha versus Bayley match, to them finally wrapping up that story. Yes, we know that's where it's got to go. But week on week, what they've done is they've made just the concept of them two as a unit more and more entertaining. Like they added layers to it. First, they were just both obnoxious. Then they started to gel up really well. Then their backstage and their promos found a real synergy. Then they've almost got this iconics level of being able to riff off each other like in random promos. They're incredibly entertaining now. And every single time we think, aha, it's here that it will get messed up. It is at WrestleMania where they're going to start sowing the seeds, or it's at this pay-per-view, they're going to cost each other, or Bayley's going to stop Sasha winning the thing, and we see the little things happening and the little clues and the little teasers. But as it goes on, as a unit, as a combined force, they are more and more entertaining. And yes, last night was stupid, absolutely stupid, but are you telling me that you are not entertained by Sasha and Bayley right now, and you are not intrigued by the prospect of watching the pair of them go forward with all 4 of these belts? Like in that backstage interview, they were like, well, we still need the NXT championship. You're telling me you don't want to see them go after that?
It's a fair assessment. I mean, like you say, the question mark would be, and I raised this on a Raw Review podcast, whether or not WWE have sort of noticed this and have gone, you know what, we're going to hold off till WrestleMania 37 for this big match.
I would, yeah.
So we can actually have crowds in there for it. And then you almost have the added intrigue of them having to face each other at Survivor Series. And my issue is they struggled to get from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania with Becky Lynch, and that storyline was red hot. So I mean, them extending this for 8 months, I'm worried.
Just to interrupt you there, we are like 9 months away from WrestleMania.
No. I get that. I totally get that. But think about if you think about because we always go back to the Ronda Becky thing and how from Survivor Series that was so long, right? But that was the build to them two having a match. If we manage to get to the end of this year, there's still definitely the entire rest of this year for these two as a unit to be incredibly entertaining. Hell, even have that match at Survivor Series, but don't immediately have the blow up there. Just have the seeds planted again. Then by the end of the year, then that's where you do it. I just think if whatever they've been building to with these two, they've got something better on their hands now. Yes, the turn and the betrayal and the eventual match is going to be brilliant, but why rush through the build for that? Like, you can get so much more out of these two as just like running roughshod, as people used to say, over the divisions. Like, why not just let them do it?
Nicholas, one thing I had to put to you is something Hamflet raised on the Raw Review podcast, which is available wherever you get your podcast from, What Culture Wrestling. Is the prospect of Bayley versus Asuka at SummerSlam and Sasha Banks versus the other boss, Stephanie McMahon.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Am I here for it? Oh, good Christ. Well, I would be here for it if I didn't think there was a teeny weeny chance that Stephanie McMahon would actually win that match.
I'm here for that.
And be crowned like the champion of all of it. But yeah, the seeds have been planted, haven't this? The one thing clearly is absolutely right. This unit of Bayley and Sasha has become something, the thing we all hoped it could and should have done, really, if they'd been given the right opportunities to begin with. they got it wrong for so long. They're getting it really right now. It's a case of, I guess in a way, while we are worried about them not making it 9 months, if they were indeed wanting to go to WrestleMania, it's kind of on those two, right? Because now they're the ones who are in the driving seat. I mean, yes, they don't really get to choose the creative decisions, as we probably saw on Monday Night Raw last night, but they have created this thing, which is like they are on another level. They are operating on that dream level where they've got all the reps in. They could literally finish each other's sandwiches and they could just carry on forever doing this gimmick, and it would be fantastic. And if they keep that belt and all the other belts, and as Clevie says, even drop down to NXT, why not keep adding to this until it starts to slowly, if things do indeed dissipate, then they should go as long as they can. But I guess the worry is, like, have they got the legs? Have they got the legs to do it? I don't know.
What do you reckon, Cleary? Boss versus boss?
I'm afraid, like, genuinely, we've said this on every time we do these videos. If you're not just here now for WWE going, yeah, magic carpet rides, yeah. Time travel, yeah, like, let Sasha Banks wrestle Stephanie McMahon. Or the alternative is they put together a match that on paper actually sounds really good and it underdelivers. The last time Stephanie McMahon was in a wrestling ring, she put on the match of the year. Like, what on earth do people want?
So I am thinking about that, and the reason that worked so well, she was amazing in that match, but she was like a heel, a real bad heel. So does that mean we have to take the heel away from, that would be my concern, and then we turn them into best friends, Sasha and Bayley again, and Bayley suddenly reinflating the inflatable flail. Oh, man. And it's all gone a bit mad.
Well, thankfully, Nicholas, Cody Rhodes has sorted this out because there are no heels and faces anymore. You just play a character. Now, I'm sure their contrasting, clashing boss personas could be well put together in that match. I think we don't have to change the dynamic at all.
Here's a question for you, just quickly. Would you have them as a tag team, Cleary? Just suddenly Banks turns on Bayley and it just becomes Stephanie McMahon's best mate and tag team partner.
The bosses, you could call it. horrible bosses.
Or the two women power trip would feel more appropriate in this scenario.
I just like the fact that we've not even contemplated the fact that Stephanie McMahon could play babyface in this scenario. That's just not on the table.
Nope.
I think someone can correct me on this, but I think I'm right in saying the only pay-per-view match Stephanie has played babyface in was when she was being assaulted by her own father.
Yeah, you might be right on that one.
Literally, that is what it takes to get Stephanie McMahon over as a sympathetic face on pay-per-view. Is literally just like familial battery.
A month removed from Vince McMahon facing a guy with one leg on pay-per-view, if I remember right. Yeah. Zach Gowen. I think the thing is...
What if you're having a baby and it's mine?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He's still in charge. I think the thing is, no one's got an issue with Sasha being champion or Sasha and Bayley. It's the issue, of undercutting Asuka and just the way it's all been presented. So they need to course correct on that. But I mean, like them having all the belts, I'm fine with. Whether or not they can then take it all the way up to WrestleMania is to be seen. I just like the idea that you've now put in my head with SummerSlam on a boat and you saying bloody magic carpet ride, Adam Cleary. Royal Rumble in space. How do you get both feet to touch the floor when there's zero gravity? That's the real question.
That's the most Michael Cole line I've ever heard. Telling us every 5 minutes. Reminder, both feet must touch the planet's core.
I'll take that as a compliment, Adam Cleary. Let's go to the comments. Hi to Fayaz Hussein, who wants a shout out. And to Mr. Phoenix, who, in the spirit of Cleary, has said he wants to plug fellow YouTuber Countdown ended and his fundraising for Extra Life, who get game consoles and such for kids in hospital. It's raised over 2,600 so far. Incredible achievement. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. So more. Okay, well, fine.
Red Lantern 161 says, what's the worst storyline that has dragged forever and the worst one that reeks of no end results being written prior? Worst
this month or?
Yes. They suggest a la Raw GM in terms of no end result being written prior.
The ones that always come to mind here, the Raw GM and Vince McMahon's illegitimate son, they changed their mind about 5 or 6 different times. I've literally just written an article yesterday, right, in which, and this is going to astound you, the Eric Rowan What Is in the Cage storyline went on for over 5 months.
Jeez.
Genuinely, I was writing this down because I thought, that was a good one. I had 2 months of television out of that. Over 5 months long that was, and it ended up being a toy spider. And then the week after they revealed it, Drew McIntyre killed it. Also, the SmackDown hacker.
I was going to say the SmackDown hacker. They've just given up on that, and Mustafa Ali is now going 50-50 on Monday Night Raw. But I'd have to go Raw GM because of the fact that they went over a year, if I'm not mistaken. And then they sort of got rid of it, and then they brought it back, and they went, it's Hornswoggle. And then didn't they do it again with like, who's the Raw GM? And they'd already told us or something like that.
Yep.
Cool. Right.
There's like genuinely, you could pull together about 10 exact. We've almost certainly done a list of like 10, like the lockbox, the goddamn lockbox. They just didn't do anything with that in the end either.
Yeah. Final question for today then. I really like this question from Ash Parker. He asked which heel wrestlers, but I'm going to open this up. Which wrestlers could take on the original MCU Avengers? Which is such an out there question.
Right, I've got a good answer for this, right? Because the answer is literally any of them, right? Because if you look,
none of it's real.
None of it's real for starters. But aside the fact, you tell me every wrestler who's ever dressed up as a superhero in WWE, who's then gone against Brock Lesnar, what has happened to that wrestler? They have all been killed to death by Big Bad Brock. Because I'm sure, I swear to God, every wrestler who Vince ends up pushing into his path, who's got some... Think about what happened to Ricochet. The resident superhero in WWE as he was before all this. Right?
He was a real-life superhero.
A real-life superhero. Imagine what happens when he's like, I'm going to win this match because I'm here. If this isn't Vince trying to sort of flatten the brand of the MCU a little bit, he's like, he's wearing clothes from the make-believe stuff, huh? All right, let's put him in there with Brock. And then Brock literally drags him round that ring and just rips him open like a bag of crisps. What is the point? What's the point?
Cleary's reaction to why not me being followed by a 2-minute match is one of my favourite things in my career.
Yeah, I remember when I started calling Brock Lesnar Redneck Thanos in loads of videos, and people really liked it as a gag, but they liked it too much because they started like tweeting like, haha, Adam Cleary just called Brock Lesnar Redneck Thanos, cry laugh emojis, but we're tagging him in it, and I was like,
God.
I'm never doing that again.
So we'll put Brock Lesnar on that team. We should chuck some other people in there. Goldberg, just because obviously he's on the same playing field as Brock Lesnar. I think Braun Strowman, and why not the Hurricane? Just so he can. People are now suggesting people in the comments. Mighty Molly, of course.
Mighty Molly, Rey Mysterio, Cyclops, of course.
Yes. Batista, of course you have Batista against the original Avengers.
But it'd be okay against the Avengers. Fair play. I was going to say,
not to be a massive nerd. That kind of has already happened in the MCU, and why is Gamora? So
okay, they've clarified Blue Batista. It's fine. Don't worry.
Blue Tista. You mean? Sorry.
Yeah.
By his proper term.
Breezango randomly just getting onto this team apparently. The Boogeyman. You've got to have the Boogeyman in there. Thank you to Joe DiGennaro for that one. I like that one. It's quite the selection. We should draw this up in a team to take on the original Avengers. Ridiculous. Right, let us know. Well, if you want to find out more about that sort of thing, What Culture Comics, I suppose. If you want to go and talk about that a little bit more.
Adam Wilborn, I don't know what I'll give you. I'll give you something if you can tell me what the handle for What Culture Comics is on Twitter.
It's a really janky one, isn't it?
Is it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just thought because you were going to plug them there, I was going to say, go on, plug the Twitter.
Go on then. Go on. What are you going to say? At What Culture Page Turner.
No, I think that's awful. No. Going to be some serious questions asked of you at the Christmas party this year. I think it's like WC_comics or something bad like that.
Jesus, that needs to be changed. Right. Anyway, if you want to follow us at What Culture WWE, of course, for all your WWE and AEW content, where can people get you, Adam Cleary?
At Adam Cleary, Clery. If you want to find out more about the fundraising, it's justgiving.com/Cleary2020.
Adam Nicholas, people can find you where?
at It's Adam Nicholas. They can find me.
And they can find me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at What Culture WWE, as I said. But this has been Wrestling Questions.
You got it.
It's only taken half an hour to get there in the end. Thank you to everyone for their donations, for their questions. My thanks to Adam Cleary, to Adam Nicholas. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Now what?